Scent Podcast.
Okay, and we're live. Welcome back to You Deserve a Drink, the Scent podcast about everything on scent. As always, I'm with the main man, Rizzle. What's up, Rizzle?
How are you doing, man? I'm very happy to be back and just as excited this time as I was last time, if not more so, with all the ongoings that have occurred since we last talked.
Dude, we have a ton to talk about today, but the elephant in the room obviously is the Scent CryptoVoxel art tour that launched earlier this week. I know you completely finished the tour, and I think did you solve all of the riddles that were involved there? Just take it away. Tell me about your experience, what you saw, what you did, and then tell me your thoughts about the CryptoVoxel art tour.
Yeah, it was really an impressive event from start to finish. I was tied up and did not make like the official start time or whatever, and really wanted to because I just sort of wanted to like be there for the beginning of it. But you know, the format of it is great because I mean it's still like out there. You know, you can go pick up the guide, right, and walk through it and catch up on all of the things that were along the way. You know, I'm a big fan of the gamification of all of this, and you know I'm a big fan of CryptoArt. And so the scavenger hunt really tied it all together for me. And I've mentioned this in like numerous comments and everything at this point. But Puffin, I feel like really crushed it, man. And CryptoVoxels has like some limitations that I can talk about a little bit. Nothing really bad. It's just like, you know, brand new stuff. I feel like it would have been really difficult to figure out exactly how to get from start to finish and navigate the situation were it not for Puffin's guide. And I mean, the thought he put into the write-ups and everything, and the scavenger hunt was really fun and well thought out and brought me to places with artwork I would have never discovered had it not been in the scavenger hunt. There are some places that are not totally obvious how to maneuver like throughout them without the guidebook and everything. And, you know, Puffin's got that creative energy flowing, and all of the scavenger hunt questions were slightly different, involved you to, you know, seek out different things, although none of them were like so complicated that they were totally impossible. There's one or two that I am not totally positive I got right, but 27 scavenger hunt items completed by me the night of the event. And since then I've been back and forth to like check out people's artwork in their galleries as different posts have popped up. And dude, even with the amount of stuff that's happened since then, it almost seems like this happened a month ago at this point, and it was like, you know, just a few days ago. You know, we put off the recording so we could, you know, have a chance to check it out and talk about it and everything. And then all this stuff's been going on like in the wake of that. It just seems like this space is really blowing up. Did you have a chance to take a peek at it, or what's been your angle on things?
I was just super enamored with all of the art that was hanging up in some of these galleries. I was making a wish list basically of some of the art that I want to scoop. But in terms of the scavenger hunt, I'm curious to hear actually how it worked out. And if anyone wants to go through that, like what do they need to actually do for the scavenger hunt?
It's very cleverly written because it forces you to look around at everyone's art and everything. So the auction block or whatever, the first space, James SW, is just counting chairs. So there's a certain amount of chairs in the auction room. So you have to wander around the whole room and do some quick math. But every question is like slightly different. I think the next stop is X copies. Is that the police station, the unmanned police station? I think it is. And, you know, he's got some interesting things going on in there. And so then you have to figure out on which side of the exit is the surface level mind scan. And a couple others, you have to find the dominant color in a certain painting, you know, and it takes you through how to get there. And so, you know, you're sort of forced to look through people's artwork to figure out which is titled what. You know, a few of them were sort of tough, and I didn't even realize until, and honestly probably would have never realized had it not been for the scavenger hunt, that a couple of these places have multiple floors that aren't totally obvious if you're just sort of like wandering around. And so a few of them I got stuck on and was like, oh, there's like a third, fourth, and fifth floor to this person's stuff. And you know, had to go look through their artwork and everything and stumbled upon a lot of really cool things that I wouldn't have otherwise found. So it's not just like go here and count this, go here and count this, go here and grab this. It's like the questions are all very clever to play in with the art tour and to sort of force you to check out more stuff or think about things like a little bit more. It took a while. It's not like super straightforward, but that's to me what makes it fun. I mean, Puffin does not mess around with their difficulty level. So it was cool. Highly recommend.
So you do the scavenger hunt, and like, what's at the end of the scavenger hunt? Is there a prize? I'm curious about that part.
Nothing. I'm anxiously awaiting.
You don't even know.
No, blackbox.art has been like super mysterious about it. You DM blackbox.art, all the answers to the scavenger hunt. I believe it closes in a couple days. And then you get entered into a raffle. And for anyone who completes it, gets something. For like the most complete or like the first several who completed it, get entered into a drawing for something. I'm not sure I totally understand it, to be completely honest with you. All I knew is I finished the thing, which I wanted to do anyway, DM my stuff to blackbox.art and, roll the dice of getting some sort of cool NFT or crypto art or something like that from her. So I was all in.
Awesome. Yeah. A big part of the reason why I didn't go so far in the tour was because I was busy like working my way around the Secret Santa. So coordinating with the artist that I commissioned the art from, and then trying to get that set up in the gallery that blackbox.art so generously donated to us. I feel like next time we need to hire like a lot of money to just go in and just do like an interior design, a gallery for us. Because I'm such a klutz with this kind of stuff. I'm all thumbs. So it was a nice little exercise in seeing like what needs to be done. What are my limitations in terms of like setting up something compelling to look at? But I feel like getting the art from the artists, that was something that was pretty straightforward. We have about like 30 unique pieces, 30 NFTs that we can gift to some users, created by MLibT, Lazarus2571, Matthias C, Blackbox.art, No Shot, Connie, Gold Key, and Bardi and Son. So that's pretty cool. But like you kind of alluded to this already, for some reason, it feels like the Scent CryptoVoxel's art tour happened like a year ago because of all the other shit that has been happening around it. So there's a user on Scent and an amazing artist in the crypto space. His name's Max Osiris. And he's putting together the first LA art crypto show in real life. I think there's about like 20 or so artists, most of them crypto artists, and they're going to display all of their crypto art there. And about like 12 of these artists are on Scent, dude. Max himself, Blackbox.art, of course, is in there. TSC's there. Miss Al Simpson. Dude, everyone's there. And then on top of that, there's something else happening in Shanghai with, I guess, I'm not sure if Jake Johns is putting it on, something similar, or if he's just promoting it. Like Shanghai and LA, like these are like pretty culturally significant cities when it comes to art. So I'm super stoked to see what people think about crypto art in the real world, if this is going to drive interest and investors to come into the space increasingly. What's your take on these in real life crypto art shows that are all of a sudden popping up?
Dude, I think it's awesome. Honestly, the first thing I thought of was, how the fuck are they going to display it? Because this is something we've talked about in the past. It's like you got it on your phone, then what do you do with it aside from like pulling it up on the web page and showing people? And I actually dug like a little bit deeper to try and figure out the answer to that question. My understanding, and I could be wrong or maybe something will change, is that they're basically getting a whole bunch of iPads and putting them in picture frames and will be individually pulling up people's artwork, I guess. And then I think this is the one in LA specifically. And then they'll be doing a art tour through CryptoVoxels on a projector, something like that. I mean, I guess that's like as good as we got, right? But I would love to see like that problem resolved over time. Like, okay, this is so awesome. Now that this is gaining traction, like let's get some real seamless ways to display this stuff, because what happens, you show up to one of these events, you really like something, you want to buy it, and then they're like, well, you got to like basically hang an iPad in your place in order to display it, or otherwise you just got it on your phone. So I think it's awesome, man. Anytime you get like, people in checking stuff out, the fact that a whole bunch of our own people on Scent are involved in this, I made a comment. I was like, dude, we should be hosting this event, right? They certainly overlook that because of how tied into the scene we are at this point.
it's all happening super quick. And events like this really, they just push the space forward. And like you're saying, they inspire people that are way more technically savvy than us to come up with better solutions than what we have now. So it's just amazing. Just another huge step forward for this space. And then on top of that, we have like the digital craftsman, No Shot, as well as like a couple other crypto artists like Josie Bellini, putting together like all these CryptoVoxel wearables. Like, have you seen this thing start to take off?
Yeah, you know how I feel when stuff like this happens. Not hating on anything. No Shot shoes look dope. A lot of the stuff looks really cool. All of a sudden, I peeked at OpenSea this morning, and I'm like, holy shit! Now there's like sunglasses and pizza boxes and hats and like coffee mugs. The Cavities coffee mugs for the Crypto Corner Cafe are awesome. And so all that's cool and everything. And it seems like the obvious direction that CryptoVoxels themselves has to go. I mean, there's only so much land to sell. They got to continue to flesh out this space. Honestly, my like biggest hesitation, if I need to like talk some shit for a little bit, is that when I'm doing this art tour, it was the first time I have like a decent laptop. It's not like super high end. I don't do any like graphic design or gaming on it or whatever. It was the first time I'd heard my laptop's fan like fucking spinning like hard. And I was like, oh shit, because a month and a half ago, that didn't happen when I was on CryptoVoxels. And it's not like my laptop's any, that much worse for wear. And my biggest concern started becoming, towards the end of the CryptoVoxels art tour, I'm like, CryptoVoxels themselves is only going to get more flooded with moving components, accessories that people are going to be wearing, more avatars like moving around with things that they're wearing. You can see where this is going, glitchy t-shirts. So I started having some concerns. I'm like, is CryptoVoxels going to like almost out tech themselves where, if you're a graphic artist or like a high-end gamer, you probably don't even know notice the speed difference. But again, like how to make this accessible to the average Joe on a computer. I'm like, my computer was cranking just to like, move around and do like the regular stuff. I mean, there's just a lot of high resolution moving components in any given gallery. And then I'm like, oh man, you add in like all these accessories and like all these people wearing them. I'm like, man, you may need something high end to eventually. And on the phone, man, it's getting tragic. I almost don't even go in there. Same thing. Like a couple months ago, I could navigate fairly seamlessly when CryptoVoxels was less populated. Now I open it up on my phone and I'm like, I might as well just pull it up on the laptop because otherwise I'm going to be here like all day long. So that was the haterade that brought on when I started seeing like all this other stuff pop up. I'm like, CryptoVoxels to me, for like all of the amazing stuff they're doing and have going on, it's still like sort of clunky and like difficult to without. I mean, I've been there like a million times at this point, and honestly, without Puffin's guide, I would have been lost, dude. The streets aren't like super clearly marked or intuitive. Everything's like sort of the same color and hard to differentiate the walking versus flying versus like randomly like appearing on top of and like going through places. It sort of is what it is with something up and coming. It seemed like to me like a really, really high end art show in like a really, really low end gallery. Again, not knocking CryptoVoxels. It's just a brand new thing that's just getting off the ground. So that's it seems like they've worked out all the big problems. Now it's like how to continue to make this experience seamless and accessible to the average person out there. What do you think about it all?
Your critiques are totally valid, and that fear, that worry that we're out teching regular people and we're just creating like a moat between us and a broader population of people that could potentially adopt this, that because of like just the over teching of the product itself, it's just making it inaccessible. I think that's a huge concern. I know Ben Nolan does so much work in any given day, and a lot of his work is around constantly optimizing the site to make sure that the loading doesn't get too crazy. I know it's an uphill battle, but thankfully he's someone that does have that in mind. But to your other point, when I went to CryptoVoxels before, like I would explore a little bit, but then I would leave because what's the point? You can walk around, you can see some cool things, but without any other broader aim, like it's hard to keep yourself there, right? But with the Lonely Planet guide that Puffin put together, that was the way to experience it. I feel like that was the first time it's like, okay, this makes sense. And then the teleporting sent a logo portal, that was perfect. That's a perfect way to get from gallery to gallery. I feel like in the future, we should probably come up with some more condensed tours just because people don't have time to go through like 27 different galleries or whatever in a single go. But like just giving people the experience, like, okay, when you go into CryptoVoxels, you're into the whole wearable thing. Well, there's a bunch of storefronts set up by like Josie and Nowhere and a couple other people. Check these places out. And there's like 5. It's more intentional. So for users that are like not as familiar with the whole scene, it's something that they can easily follow along with. I feel like that's a really important insight that this really fun exercise helped to highlight, at least for me.
Just sort of thinking out loud, like some standardization would really help overall. Like right now, understandably, you've got a bunch of independent artists doing like an independent thing. And so every place is like structured differently, like looks totally different, is totally different to navigate, which is fine and is part of like the the artiness of the whole thing. But even some sort of blurb like, what Puffin has written out in the guidebook, on like a signpost in front of each one or something, just so like, okay, here's another place. Here's the signpost that tells me how to navigate it. Each time I know if it's a scent place, the scent portal is like right next to the door. Because right now it seems there's so much to see. It's all so interesting. It's also like all over the place that every time you walk into someone else's gallery, it's like a totally different world. And it's like, what in the world is going on here? Part of the fun of it is figuring out what is going on there. But I do think some sort of like basic standardization would, again, make it more accessible to the average person who just sort of pops in and is wondering what is going on.
Yeah. And I kind of feel like we are like the early pioneers in this virtual space, right? Even though these galleries sort of mimic or seem familiar to us and like we know in the offline sense in the real world, we have to totally reconceive how we interact with these digital spaces. And like the best practices are nowhere near derived. You were pointing out earlier, like you had no idea some of these buildings even had 3, 4, 5 floors. We need to come up with the signage with the markers to let people know that those other spaces exist, right? I feel like having this sort of guide for now is a step in the right direction. But just in terms of like interior design, signage, someone needs to come up with a better way so that other people can just simply adopt them and so that the project itself can just make those available for people. So it's just like when people visit there, it's an intuitive thing to know that there's stairs around a corner or something like that. It just highlights how new of a space it is and like just a broad opportunity, right? To do super innovative things that no one has thought about or realized are even problems. Like the amount of people that are realizing what the problems and limitations are in these digital spaces, we're amongst a very, very small group of people. And if any of us are able to figure out the right ways to do these things, that's important for the whole space to move forward and to be at that forefront. I just think it's kind of mind-blowing. But kind of moving on, because again, we still have so much to talk about on Scent. There's a lot of good posts that were made. Do you have any posts that you want to kind of highlight as standing out to you?
OZ Masters mushroom pictures. This person had made like a few hiking posts and, sort of like some of the posts that we had talked about before. It was like a little bit of like cultural knowledge about where they're from and stuff like that. And it was very interesting. And then they sort of like randomly sprinkle in these mushroom pictures with, different captions and everything. And at first I was like, what the hell is going on? But then they like really stuck to their like mushroom game or whatever you would call it. And we're getting like daily or like twice daily interesting looking mushroom pictures lately. Finally, I was like, all right, I like the mushroom pictures. I'm with this. I don't know why you felt so strongly to like bring your stylish mushroom pictures here that they would catch on. But I think he finally succeeded and it caught on with me at least. I'm digging the mushroom pictures. What about you?
So there was a post by Slunk the other day talking about just student debt. Student debt, especially in the American context, is something that it's a huge problem. What is the total student debt at now? Like $1.9 trillion or something like that, and growing by the day. Just like the current generation of kids that are in school or about to graduate, or people that have graduated within like the last 5 to 10 years, just the amount of debt that they have is just, it's crippling. And I'm just sitting halfway around the world as someone who was able to escape that debt trap and like study at a great university halfway around the world in Asia, get amazing scholarship opportunities over here, and not have to take on that debt, and then just be able to graduate and then have every opportunity to make the decision I want to make in my life, as opposed to making decisions based on, will I be able to make my repayment schedule and things like that, or thinking that, well, I need to stay at this dead end job for the next 10, 15 years. Otherwise, like, I'm not sure how I would keep paying this debt off and like trying to start like a regular life. It's a huge problem. I know in the article, Slunk kind of suggested maybe establishing like a 90% marginal tax to help pay for these things. I'm not sure what the optimal solution is. I would advocate people just not going to school in the States if they could. Like, there's opportunities all over the world that could help individuals like really differentiate themselves and help them acquire a whole different set of tools and life experiences that otherwise would never even be attainable in the US. But it's an important discussion to keep having and trying to move forward towards some sort of resolution or solution.
It is out of control, man, and something that I think about a lot. For my kids and moving forward and how they're going to navigate these situations, because you're right, man. One wrong move, you think you're doing a great thing, going to a great school, and you're in like crippling student debt for 20 years. And the benefits of travel are not to be taken lightly either. On top of like, getting an affordable degree in a, high-end school in a great location. I'm a big fan of Slunk. Slunk was doing an AMA the other day, and I was, shooting a couple goofy questions back and forth with him. But I love how Slunk can like sort of go back and forth between sort of being a goofball and like really abstract and like thinking outside the box, to like dropping some like serious knowledge and like, letting you know that he's like really put some like time and effort and thought into, whatever it is he wants to talk about that day. So yeah, man, big fan of Slunk. Anything else stick out to you?
So there was a post by Spontanert. It was more of like a comment. It was a really short one-off that they had never been interested in Twitter until they came to Cent. And I thought that was something that resonated with me. Just because like when you're on Cent and you start kind of going on your creative journey, or you're going deeper on your creative journey, you want to shout that stuff out. You want to let other people outside of Cent know about it. And there's just a lot of amazing tools available to us that we can use as a megaphone to shout out the good shit that's happening on Cent. Twitter is like one of the best ones right now, just because of crypto Twitter, but also because of the creative community that is on Twitter already. If you're able to catch the ear or eye of anyone on these other different, but obviously very related groups, it's just nothing but a benefit for the whole community over at Cent. So I thought that was just a really, really brilliant insight. Did you have anything else before we get into the exciting development with our Centerpiece series?
No, man. You want to get onto the exciting news with the Centerpiece? I'm happy to dive right in.
Do it, dude. I know you were doing some business development over the past couple of days with good friends over at Marble Cards. So, dude, let people know what the deal is now.
Well, after our last podcast, I was thinking about what I was saying about love, art, hate, and how like some of his posts, I feel like in themselves are sort of like art or whatever. And it just got me thinking, I'm like, what do you do with something like that? You just bookmark it and then that's it. You know what I mean? Then you just have it in your like stash of bookmarks that you basically never look at anyway. And so I was like, it would be really cool if there was some way to memorialize great posts or like, capture them in some way. And then it just sort of hit me. I was like, oh shit, this is what Marble Cards like basically does. And so I kicked the idea over to Marble Cards and I was like, hey, what do you guys think of, each week we each pick a centerpiece post. How do you feel about marbling those posts as sort of like a, and then I don't know if we sell them or they go on the open market. But either way, I felt like it would be like a really cool and like sort of flattering, award for the people we pick as the centerpiece, just to know like, hey, your piece, your post has been, memorialized indefinitely on the blockchain in the form of a marble card, because it was, hand selected, and we thought it was so cool. So I was talking to Johan about it. He thought it was a great idea and was like totally down. So we're going to give it a go and see how it goes. So definitely big shout out to Marble Cards. They jumped right on board, and we'll be listening to the podcast. So we'll have 2 marbled centerpiece posts, around the time this comes out.
That's so cool. I had to pick blackbox.art, and just the post that they did on introducing the CryptoVoxel art tour. It garnered about like 13 or 14 bucks in seeds, which I think was the highest seeded post in the last week. It's just like a ton of interest. Blackbox.art did so much work along with everyone else involved in the CryptoVoxel art tour. But she's just such an amazing person, amazing spirit, constantly promoting other people. She's so selfless, and she's also an amazing artist in her own right. And I just love how she writes. It's so clear. It's so sincere. And that post, I would love to see that marbled. Yeah, that's my centerpiece. What's yours?
Yeah, that's fantastic, man. You can't say enough good things about her. My centerpiece was sort of a new-ish user, or at least someone who doesn't post too much. Gemini X, Is Life Turning You Down? Is your life turning you down? And the content of the post is more about taking the bull by the horns, and if you don't like something, change it. And one of these sort of introspective posts that honestly I feel like you tend to gravitate towards a lot. And I don't come from the perspective that like everyone is created equal and everyone has the same opportunities and everything. I think a lot of that depends on your like societal and geographic situation. But I do believe that people who are highly motivated to make something happen are able to make something happen within the context of wherever they're at in their life. So I really like that post and think it's also deserving of a first centerpiece.
That's awesome. So I guess we'll get those 2 posts marbled up. But dude, another awesome show. I think we've covered a ton of ground. There's still a ton more left to cover that we will get to in later episodes. But as always, it was a pleasure talking with you, bro.
Great, man. It was always a fun conversation.
All right, man. Well, take it easy. I'll talk to you next week.
Yep, you too.
Podcast. Podcast.